remains to be seen. Why are kartals important? Why are kartals important? Yes. Who strung these? Well, these just turned up. Nobody knows. We should string these with long enough strings. See, you can't actually play them. If you wrap them around your finger, right, then you don't have enough space. No, we'll stick with these. They're not bad. Although they don't match, they're not. Yeah, they don't match. No, neither do those. These are smaller. Musical instruments need tuning. Right? And so ideally, this one will sound the same as this one. And so when you put them together, they ring ding at the same frequency. Right? And so then it sounds nicer. But for many, they wouldn't even think about it, right? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Ravanachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Ravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashto Tarasati Śrīmad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Prem Se Hosi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Se Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham ki, Sri Mayapura Navadvitam ki, Sri Purushottam Chitra ki, Sri Ganga Maya ki Jai, Sri Jamuna Maya ki Jai, Bhakti Devi ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Maharani ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtana ki Jai, Sri Sri Gauranitai ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Ballabha ki Jai, Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi ki Jai, Melbourne Mahaprabhu Mandira ki Jai. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Oh, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Mishwaraya Krishna Stabhadla Smari Bunajam Prabhuvajanamani. Namo Mishwaraya Krishna Stabhadla Smari Bhaktivedanta Swami Janamani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachanana Seshani Varipasa. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, the Summum Bonum, Chapter 2, Prayers by the Demigods for Lord Krishna in the Womb, text number 3. Te piditani viveshuhu Kuru panchalake kayan Shalvan vidarbhani shadhan Videhan koshalanapi Te piditani viveshuhu Kuru panchalake kayan Shalvan virdarbhani shadham Videhan koshalanapi Te Peditani Vivishuhu Guru Panchala Kekayan Shalvan Vidarbhani Shadhan Videhan Koshalanapi Te Peditar Vivishu Guru Panchala Kekayan Salvan Vidarbhan Nishadan Videhan Koshalanapi. Ladies? Te Piditani Vivishuhu Let's start again, shall we? They, the kings of the Yadu dynasty, Peditaha, being persecuted, Nivivishuhu, took shelter or entered the kingdoms, Kuru Panchala, the countries occupied by the Kurus and Panchalas, Kekayan, the countries of the Kekayas, Shalvan, the countries occupied by the Shalvas, Viradaraban, the countries occupied by the Vidarbhas, Nishadhan, the countries occupied by the Nishadas, Videhan, the country of Videha, Koshalanapi, as well as the countries occupied by the Koshalas. Persecuted by the demoniac kings, the Yadavas left their own kingdom and entered various others like those of the Kurus, Panchalas, Kekayas, Shalvas, Vidarbhas, Nishadas, Videhas and Koshalas. Text number 4 and 5. Eke tamanu rundhana ji. Hang on. Gyataya paryupasate hateshu satsu baleshu divikya Ograsenina Saptamo Vaishnavam Dhamma Yamanantam Prachakshate Garbo Bhuva Devakya Hashashoka Vivardhanaha. Some of their relatives, however, began to follow Kamsa's principles and act in his service. After Kamsa, the son of Ugrasena, killed the 6 sons of Devaki, a plenary portion of Krishna entered her womb as her 7th child, arousing her pleasure and her lamentation. That plenary portion is celebrated by great sages as Ananta, who belongs to Krishna's 2nd quadruple expansion. Purport. Some of the chief devotees, such as Akrura, stayed with Kamsa to satisfy him. This they did for various purposes. They all expected the Supreme Personality of Godhead to appear as the 8th child as soon as Devaki's other children were killed by Kamsa. and they were eagerly awaiting his appearance. By remaining in Krishna's association, they would be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They would be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead take birth and display his childhood pastimes. And Akrura would later go to Vrindavan to bring Krishna and Balaram to Mathura. The word paryupasate is significant because it indicates that some devotees wanted to stay near Kamsa in order to see all these pastimes of the Lord. The 6 children killed by Kamsa had formerly been sons of Marichi, but because of having been cursed by a Brahmana, they were obliged to take birth as grandsons of Hiranyakashipu. Kamsa had taken birth as Kalanimi, and now he was obliged to kill his own sons. This was a mystery. As soon as the sons of Devaki were killed, they would return to their original place. The devotees wanted to see this also. Generally speaking, no one kills his own nephews, but Kamsa was so cruel that he did so without hesitation. Ananta Sankarshan belongs to the second Chatur Vyuha, or quadruple expansion. This is the opinion of experienced commentators. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmaye Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mahiyam Tadati Svapadantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Garim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatavinam. Okay, so Paryupasate, which in the translation is began to agree with him. Okay, so in the previous verse it's described how many of the Yadava dynasty took shelter in the provinces or in the states nearby Mathura as a result of the harassment and the persecution waged by Kamsa and his friends. Yet, interestingly, some of them remained in Kamsa's kingdom, despite the fact that he was harassing the devotees effectively. Right? Harassment. And it's natural. It's natural for the devotees to avoid the association of the demons. Right? And be uncomfortable in the association of somebody like Kamsa. As we see from the description of in the Bhagavad Gita of the demons, they don't know what is to be done or what is not to be done. And in pursuit of their personal desires, and sometimes even whimsically, they'll behave in such a way that's threatening and even dangerous for a devotee. Killing your sister's children probably ranks fairly highly in terms of atrocities, right? On the atrocity level, that's right up there as being. So, it's not surprising that many of the Yadavas left the kingdom, left their homes. This would have all been extremely distressing for the devotees who are anticipating the appearance of Krishna, because everybody knew. Everybody heard the very public announcement at the wedding of Vasudeva and Devaki that the 8th child of Devaki would kill Kamsa. So the devotees had to tolerate a very unsettling environment. And yet some of them, so we've got the description where the devotees are leaving because of Kamsa's atrocities. But then, surprisingly, some of them stay. Right? And Prabhupada explains here why they stayed, because despite the fact that they knew that Kamsa was a demon and that he was performing these atrocities, and this also explains why Narada Muni went to Kamsa and deliberately disturbed him. Right? Because in one sense, Kamsa had been pacified by Vasudev's promises, right? And he'd said, "Oh, it's okay. You don't need to, you don't need to bring me your children." Right? But then Narada Muni came and said to Kamsa, "Any one of these children could be Lord Vishnu." So then Kamsa reneged, went back on it. "Oh, okay, deliver them to me." And so that ordinarily would be that agitation by Narada Muni could be misconstrued, and even the devotees, the Yadavas who stayed in Kamsa's kingdom, could be misconstrued. And of course, we know, what is it? Asat sangatyag e Vaishnavacha, right? Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami mentions when the residents of Kulinagram came to visit Lord Chaitanya, as they would every year for the celebration of the Rath Yatra festival, and it was an opportunity for the devotees who lived in Mayapur, in Navadvip, to be with Lord Chaitanya. So there was a sequence of years where the residents of Kulinagram would come to Jagannath Puri and ask questions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And basically the questions were the same. or they led with the same question, which is, what is the qualification of a Vaishnava? Right, what is the qualification? So we see the first verse, verse 3, describes the devotees leaving Kamsa's, leaving Mathura, effectively, which matches that description of a devotee, right? Asat Sangha Tyag. They give up the association of those who are attached to the asat, right? To the impermanent. There's a symptom of a demoniac person. So, but there are those who stayed. And even, how do we explain Narada Muni's almost, encouraging? He's a devotee, he's the greatest devotee, described as Bhagavan. He's the greatest devotee, yet he's encouraging Kamsa to kill his nephews. I guess we could safely assume that Narada Muni, in other places in the Bhagavatam, Narada Muni is described as being equivalent to the Supersoul, right? Which means he can see into everybody's hearts. He can see. So we can assume that Narada Muni knew the purpose for which the sons of Devaki were to be killed, right? Sometimes things happen to us that we don't appreciate, we prefer not to, right? Have any of you experienced things that you didn't like? Yes, all the time, every day, right? 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh no. Right? Well, that's slightly different. A lot different, actually. So the devotees wanted these events to transpire quickly because they were deeply absorbed, they're devotees, they're deeply absorbed in thinking of Krishna. And so, okay, there's the principle of asat sangha tyag, give up bad association. But at the same time, the devotees also want to witness the appearance of the Lord and the pastimes leading up to it. And so they're staying in a difficult place, or in a place that's not necessarily conducive to the performance of devotional service because of the presence of the demons. They chose the inconvenience to participate in the Lord's pastimes and to observe, to witness the appearance of the Lord. Although it was, Vasudeva and Devaki are in prison, right? So, although you could assume that it must have been a fairly comfortable prison, right? Huh? Somewhat comfortable. So, Prabhupada explains here, they were eagerly awaiting his appearance. So that compensated for the fact that they had to live in Kamsa's presence, in Kamsa's kingdom. And then, of course, the 6 sons of Devaki were actually experiencing the curse of, I can't remember who. Does anybody remember who the curse gave the curse? I didn't. You know, these are it's detail. Hiranyakashipu. Was it Hiranyakashipu? Yep, I think it was. Yep. So the circumstance around the killing of the sons of Devaki, the 6 sons of Devaki, were actually not without cause. There was a good reason why Kamsa was actually Kalanimi. Right? And the 6 sons of Devaki previously had been his sons. Is that right? Yes. So he was cursed to kill his own sons, which is even more horrific. Which is unfortunately not uncommon in this age. Right? There were dire predictions in the 70s, even back to the 50s, 1950s, and the population was going off the chart, right? The number of people being born. And and so consequently, and food production was at a stable level, and the population was exploding. And so the predictions were by 2026, right, we would all die of starvation because there were too many people on the planet. Well, have a guess what? It didn't happen. You know, there were articles being written, books being written about how there would be so many people on the planet by 2026, it'd be standing room only. Okay, well, it didn't happen. One of the reasons why it didn't happen was because food production went up. Interesting. Food production, scientists who were awarded the Peace Prize, actually, for developing strains of wheat that would give higher yields in the various, climates of the planet. That was one thing. But the other thing was, the other thing that restricted the population was what, do you think? Huh? War? No, not like, well, these are predictions that were made in the late 50s. So World War II was over by that stage. And, millions of people were killed in World War. Yeah, no, it wasn't war. No, it wasn't abortion, although that had something to do with close. What do you think it was? The pill. The pill. Yeah, the pill. Interesting, right? So this is demoniac. These kind of activities are grossly gross, right? Gross behaviour, and especially abortion as well. So this is common. This is commonly accepted. And you see in America especially, and in Australia too, my body, my choice, right? My body, my choice. And, you could say, oh, well, that's reasonable, right? But of course it's interesting that the vice, there's a joke. I don't know if you've heard this joke, but you're about to hear it. We follow oral contraceptives, right? And you know what that is? No. Right, no. Now, but that's not easy. That is not easy to follow the prescriptions of the Vaishnava culture, which is basically a culture of restraint, right? In one sense, restraint. But actually, even restraint is very difficult. So our culture is we are able to abstain because we engage in something positive, right? Paramdrishtva nivartate. So those who are embodied, what is it? Niraharasya dehina. Those who are embodied will feel their urges, right? Vacho vegam, vanasakroda vegam, jiva vegam, udurapasta vegam, right? But who experience also, by positive engagement, we engage positively in activities that help us experience a higher taste. And so therefore, the lower pushes, the lower urges are controlled by higher taste, effectively. You know, this was an argument that appealed to me very, very strongly when I first met the devotees. Right? So this attraction to Krishna and this attraction to Krishna's service and the engagement in Krishna's service gives the devotees a higher sense of achievement, of participation, of engagement, so that the urges of the mind and the senses are controlled through a positive. So rather than, holding on, right, which is very difficult, we're able to control the urges of the mind and the senses by positive engagement in activities that give us a higher taste, a higher sense of satisfaction. What is it? Tushti pushti chudapayano nugasam, right? There's a taste that one gets out of devotional service. There's a nourishment that one experiences. And from that naturally comes detachment, tag. Right? So the devotees in Mathura, they're able to tolerate the influence of Kamsa and his misbehavior, because they had such a deep affection and a deep attachment and a total engagement in devotional service. And Akrura is a good example, because Kamsa sent Akrura to Vrindavan to bring Krishna to Mathura. And of course, Akrura was cursed by the residents of Vrindavan for doing that, right? But Kamsa Akrura was so happy, right? He was so happy to go to Vrindavan to get Krishna and bring him back bring him to Mathura. And of course, there are very, They're deeply challenging scenes where the residents of Vrindavan are devastated by the fact that Akrura took Krishna away from Vrindavan. Of course, Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, so he existed in his uppercut form. And especially Krishna never leaves the hearts of the gopis. So very deeply absorbing pastimes. And demonstrations of affection and attachment for Krishna in the hearts of all of the devotees, including the devotees who lived in Mathura, and especially the devotees who had to leave Mathura because of their disgust for the behavior of Kamsa. Just like I was talking to some devotees yesterday. Was it yesterday? We were talking about living near the temple. Right? Most of you live near the temple. Is that right? Huh? No? You just live down the road, don't you? Hoppers Crossing. Well, you're here. Close enough. Hoppers Crossing is closer than Delhi, right? Yeah, but you know, there are many devotees who live close to the temple. And they say to me, oh, I couldn't live. I couldn't exist if I didn't live close to the temple. Huh? And of course that's a challenge. That's a challenge, because everybody wants a temple just a block away. Huh? Give me a temple. I need a temple. You've got to give me a temple. Right? And fair enough. We can relate to that because we live near the temple. Oh, you live near the temple. Some of us live in the temple, right? So, you know, living near or close to Krishna is very desirable. And of course, why we why we worship in our own private space. We worship Krishna. Huh? But of course, in that principle of asat sanga tyag, we also like to be with the devotees, and especially in an environment where that service to Krishna is, you know, tangibly experienced. Right? Despite the difficulties. You know, even though we live in Albert Park and Albert Park is a nice place to live. Is that right? Or St Kilda, Port Melbourne, Docklands, even Hoppers Crossing. Not so bad, right? But we have to tolerate the asat sangha, right? Even in Albert Park, there are demons, right? I won't mention any names. That wouldn't be nice. And of course, Prabhupada makes a point. That's why we establish temples. Right? So there's a place where the devotees can congregate to chant Hare Krishna, to worship, to, Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan or Sankirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, hear the Bhagavatam, Murti Seva, and Mathura Vas, right? Live in Mathura, which is what these devotees were doing, right? And here, living in Mathura, or the equivalent, despite the fact that there's so many negative influences, right? Although Albert Park really is pretty, you know, it's relatively speaking, it's a nice place to live. Right? That's a fact. Because Krishna's pastimes are being performed and there's the imminent appearance of Krishna, some of the devotees, so some of them chose to go away because of the persecution but others chose to stay. And even here it says, Pariupasate, they started to think like Kamsa. Huh? Apparently. So they were, even like we see in the pastimes of Rupa and Sanatan. Right? They became effectively, by all measures, Muslims. Right? And they had, they had a Muslim name, Dabir Kash and Sakar Malik, wasn't it? Something like that. Yeah. So, and took, because they were serving the king, the Nawab. Right? And so, but actually it's mentioned by some commentators that they took on those roles to protect the Vaishnavas of the Bengal, the Bangla community, right? And of course, Lord Chaitanya, with the association of Lord Chaitanya, they became, well, they already were elevated, but they were their elevated position as devotees was recognized, and that association of the Nawab was of little consequence, right? And of course, Prabhupada says this is Lord Chaitanya's mission. Lord Chaitanya's mission is to elevate anyone. Haridas Thakur is the Namacharya. I mentioned this the other day. Actually, and Prabhupada says, actually, Lord Chaitanya is the Namacharya, but he gave that title to a Muslim, right? To demonstrate that anybody who chants Hare Krishna will be elevated naturally, automatically, if one embraces the process of bhakti. And for us, that's focused on our chanting, our japa and our sankirtan. So the engagement in bhakti, pure bhakti, well, actually any kind of bhakti, right? Akama savakamo va mokshakama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena. So that focused performance of devotional service elevates and purifies even somebody who has all material desires, right? Or no desires. Very rare. Or even liberated personalities. So those devotees who were deeply attached to Krishna's appearance and wanted to be present to observe that appearance, they stayed in Mathura, eagerly and in anticipation, waiting for the Lord's appearance, and even apparently, like Rupa and Sanatan, apparently became, were influenced by the asat sangha, but still deeply within their hearts, they still remained, bhaktas, despite the. Oh, and who is Ananta? Who is Ananta? Lord Balaram, yes. and here described as a plenary, what is it? What does it say here? That plenary portion. What's a plenary portion? What does the word plenary mean? Anybody know? Prabhupada uses it a lot. Plenary, what does it mean? I used to see that, plenary, and I think, what does that mean? And then have a guess what happened. One day I picked up the dictionary and had a look. But it's important. Plenary, what's a plenary portion? Not from the planet? No, not to do with planet. It's plenary, not planetary. Yeah, close but different. Yeah. Plenary, what does it mean? You must. Who's read the word plenary before? Are you familiar with the word? Who's reading Prabhupada's books? Please raise your hands. Okay, you must have read plenary. But you've read it and never thought about what it means. Hey? Not surprising. Okay, so what does it mean? We're going to educate you. Well, I have done this before. Plenary, what does it mean? Nobody knows? Two meanings. No, it doesn't, does it? A meaning within a meaning. No, it's context. Very interesting. The English language is a very interesting animal, right? It's not like almost any other language in the world for many reasons. But then, of course, it's made up of all these different words. Lila Kata, give us the meaning. Loudly, loudly. What was the first phrase? A? It's A, but what before that?
It starts off saying, of a meeting to be attended by all participants.
Yes, of a meeting attended by all participants. Yes, very good. Next. Yes, absolute. I think roughly it means full. The full, like a plenary session of a meeting means everybody's there, so it's full, right? And a plenary manifestation of Krishna means it's fully Krishna, right? And who's that? Balaram. Yes, surprise, surprise. So plenary, when Prabhupada mentions plenary, he means a full manifestation of the Supreme, effectively, right? Not just a little bit, but a full bit, the whole bit, in other words, right? And of course, Prabhupada mentions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's no difference between Krishna and Balaram, right? Except for one thing. What is it? Colour. Yes, colour. And also that Balaram accepts the role of servitor, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Krishna accepts the role of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although sometimes he also serves, right? Because service is attractive, right? We all like to serve. There's no greater pleasure than having the opportunity to serve. Have you experienced that? Huh? You wouldn't be here if you hadn't. Yeah. All righty. Okay. So does anybody have any comments or questions about anything?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the nice class. Prabhu, you mentioned that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan.
And we know that Rath Yatra celebrates Krishna coming back to Vrindavan. So which Krishna are they celebrating? Is it the Mathura Krishna, Dwarka Krishna?
One way to think of it is to understand the Lord's pastimes at a variety of levels, right? And so, why did Krishna go to Mathura? Why did he do that? Apparently, right? Even though we hear from the Acharyas that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, we know that he did leave, right? Just like we know, at least theoretically, that we're not the body, right? But if I punch you on the nose, you'll say, hey, you hit me, right? So we exist on, there's the gross level, right? There's the subtle body, the mind, the intelligence, the false ego, and there's the spiritual platform, spiritual level. So we know that Krishna left Vrindavan with Akrura, right? And we know that Krishna promised that he would return. But did he? Did Krishna ever return to Vrindavan? No, he didn't. But he never left. But he did leave. I saw him go. Yeah. So and so the Acharyas explain there's the aprakat and prakat lila, right? There's the hidden lila and then the manifest, or we could say perhaps external, although it's not external because it's all taking place under the influence of Yoga Maya, not Mahamaya, right? So it's under the influence of the spiritual, it is the spiritual realm, the spiritual energy. And Prabhupada explains, it's like the embassy. You go to the United States Embassy. You know where it is? Down in Albert Road. When you enter into the embassy, the laws of the United States apply, not the laws of Australia. Even though you're in Albert Road, right, and you're in Australia, you're drinking out of paper cups that have come from America. The water's bottled, well, actually, I don't know whether the water is actually from America. Maybe in India it's from America. I don't know. But anyway, it's the American embassy in Australia, but actually the laws of the United States of America apply in that location. So similarly, in Vrindavan, even though Vrindavan is a physical place and you can go there, it's on the map, actually it's an embassy of the spiritual world. And so the devotees have great awe and reverence and look forward to the opportunity of visiting the holy places of Krishna's pastimes, because it's understood that the influence or the power or the potency of the spiritual world is deeply experienced in that place because it's non-different from the spiritual world. So we need to then understand the Lord's pastimes from the Leela perspective, and when there was that reunion at Kurukshetra, then the residents of Vrindavan petitioned Krishna, come back to Vrindavan. And Nanda Maharaj stayed in Kurukshetra with the Dwarka Basis for 3 months. And his determination was to have Krishna come back to Vrindavan. That's why he was there. Yeah? But after 3 months, well, actually, Nanda Maharaj spoke with Krishna, and Krishna said, I can't leave at this point. I'll come, but I can't leave at this point in time. And so Nanda Maharaj realized that Krishna was obliged to stay with the Yadavas, right? Because that was his Leela. You know, the Leela Shakti controlled Krishna's movements. And at that point in time, as part of his Leela, he had to stay with the... And of course that really affected Nanda Maharaj, but he remained completely transcendental to that awareness, to that understanding. And so eventually returned to Vrindavan without having fulfilled his mission, actually, which would have been very disappointing. Right? But of course, Nanda Maharaj is, deep, well, he's, always thinking of Krishna and serving Krishna. And so is exemplary in his demonstration of, detachment, right? Very detached. But Krishna did return with Nanda Maharaj because he's always in his heart, right? This is the characteristic of the residents of Vrindavan. They all carry Krishna within their hearts. And of course, and Krishna tells them, whenever you're thinking of me, I'm thinking of you. We see that. Who mentioned that the other day? Krishna's in Dwarka and with his queens, but at night he's calling out the names of the gopis in his dreams. Yeah. So the devotees are always thinking of Krishna, and Krishna is always thinking of his devotees, especially the topmost devotees, the residents of Vrindavan. And so in that way Krishna never leaves, and at the same time he leaves. And it's interesting because as a result of that tension, that apparent conflict, that then deepens the affection that Krishna has for the residents of Vrindavan and that the residents of Vrindavan have for Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the class. You mentioned the phrase, "my body, my choice," and I was thinking that's...
Hare Krishna. That wasn't the highlight, but anyway, it's okay.
I was just reflecting on how that's a very like the sum total of materialistic mentality.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
when someone thinks that and claims that false proprietorship, they think they can be enjoyers. So I was thinking, if we were to flip that phrase, what would be the Krishna conscious version of it? What should be our motto as Krishna
Well, we could have a
conscious?
competition, no? Well, first of all, you're not the body, and you have no choice. No, you do. No, you're not the body, and you do have choices. Right? Now, how to put that in a catchy kind of a phrase, I don't know. But yes, this is darkness, really. and see, the interesting thing, there's again different levels of existence. We can say we are not the body, but transcending the bodily concept of life is easier said than done. Not easy to totally transcend, and you can't ultimately totally transcend the body until, you know, we leave it. Right? And the idea, and so this is a bit of a paradox in that without the human form, we're not actually able to achieve liberation from the material realm, from material existence. So it's a great gift, right? It's a great opportunity. And so, and that's why our philosophy is achincha, inconceivable, beda, abeda. One and different. Right? We're one with the body, but we're also different from it. Right? So, at the same time, and that's difficult to reconcile without experience. It's experiential. So, understanding that position and acting on it with full detachment is rarely achieved, actually. Right? What is it? Manusyanam sahasreshu kaschid yam veti tattvataha, something like that. Getting the human form of life is rare. Right? Out of the number of species of life, to get to the human form of life is rarely achieved, actually. And then in the human form of life, to actually come to the point of realizing that you're, or understanding, even theoretically, that you're not the body, that's rare. Right? If you talk to the Joe Blow in the street and tell him, you know, you're not this body, and don't even think about it. Right? What's our anthem? We used to say this at school. I am an Australian. I love my country. Right? Did you say that at school?
I was born in Romania, so I said the Romanian equivalent.
Okay, you got that. These guys got the Indian equivalent. Right, and it doesn't matter where you go. It's very absorbing, right? It's absorbing. I am an Australian. I love my country. And we would say, you're a mug. This is mode of ignorance. So yeah, my body, my choice. But at the same time, that does have relevance. That's why it resonates so strongly with people, right? But of course, from our point of view, no, because okay, yes, it's your choice, but you've got to be careful about the choices you make, because if you make the wrong choices, then you're going to suffer. This is the whole purpose of the Bhagavad Gita, effectively, is to let people know that it's your body, but make the right choices, right? Not the wrong choices. And of course, coming to that level of choice, right? That level of choice requires great good fortune, great. What's the word? Brahmanda Bhumite Kona Bhagyavana Jeev Guru Krishna Prasad Poi Bhakti Lata Bij. The greatest good fortune of existence is described by Krishnadas Kaviraj as to come into the association of the the transcendentalists, who understand that the real purpose of life is to get above this bodily concept and connect with our original spiritual identity. That's the greatest good fortune, right? But if we're stuck at the level of male, female, what does Prabhupada say? Dog, cat, tiger, Indian, American, Australian, right? This is a very low level of existence. And the opportunity in the human form of life is for us to take advantage, take advantage of it, not for sense gratification, because if we just behave like the animals, then we're no better than an animal, right? But the opportunity, and so this is why the human form of life is such a great benediction, is because yes, you can enjoy like the animals, and you know, that's what Friday night and Saturday night's for, right? Enjoying like an animal. But better than that is enjoy like a human being, and that is realize one's spiritual identity. And that's done even within the context of simultaneously identifying with the body, right? But that step up is the opportunity. Yeah. We've got a great celebration of the bodily concept of life going on in Melbourne at the moment. Did you know that? It's called the Australian Open. And everybody's celebrating. I'm an Australian, I'm an American, I'm a Spanish, I'm a this, that or the other. And I'm a better tennis player than you. It's a great example of the bodily concept of life in action, right? Even the football season, this is another great example. And so there's different levels of consciousness, and the opportunity, and Prabhupada explains it. You know, the first level is Anamaya. You know what Anamaya is? Sometimes I wonder about the devotees because they exhibit this. I eat, therefore I am. And you see it in a baby, right? When they're hungry, feed them, back to sleep. Then above Anamaya is what's next? Pranamaya, right? And this is where most people, or a lot, well, we all work on this level, right? And that is, you know, I do, therefore I am, you know. Then Manamaya, I think, therefore I am. That's a higher level that's afforded, especially to the human beings, above the animals. So we have art and drama and music, right? That it does elevate, actually, right? But the real purpose of the human form is to go to the next stage, which is Jnana Maya, where we understand that we're not the body, that we're actually spiritual by nature, right? We still, you know, it's nearly breakfast time, so we still eat, right? And we still act. You've got jobs and things, you know, we've got things to do. But the greatest opportunity that the human form of life, at least according to our Vaishnava culture, Bhakti culture, and even to the broader Vedic culture, is that we're here to realize our spiritual identity separate from the physical, right? And of course, that is easy for us when we chant Hare Krishna. That's one of the deepest realizations that we can have. But beyond that is Anandamaya, where we understand that we're not the body, that we're spiritual by nature, and then we pursue, rather than we pursue activities that are ultimately confirming and consolidating our relationship with Krishna and our awareness that we're not the body, and that's that culmination of or that achievement, the height of achievement in the human form, is to experience that ananda and relish the relationships that we have, or that the devotees have with Krishna. So most people hovering around, well, we all have to eat, that's pretty simple, but most people hovering around the prana, like if you ask people, you know, who they are, and they'll tell you, oh, I'm an Indian, or I'm an Australian, or I'm a IT professional, or, you know, whatever it is that they tell you, right? I'm an accountant, ooh. And so it's very much on the prana, and even on the mental platform. People exist on the mental platform, very much. But yeah, so my body, my choice, no, you're not the body, and be careful about the choices that you make. How's that sound?
Pretty good, thank you.
Yeah. And don't get into a fight about it. Don't get into an argument over it. Yeah. Okay, all right. It's the moment for which we're always anxious. Hare Krishna. Kantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Hare Krishna. Which one? That one or the first one? Yeah. Oh, in the purple one?
Yes,
In the translation? Yes. That's our seventh child. Yes, I didn't talk about that, did I? Yeah, but you know, I think it's fairly commonly understood that
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanshan Shri Rupam Chakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathantam Tvam Sadivam Shadaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.